Book recommendation: Genesis of the Grail Kings, the explosive story of genetic cloning and the ancient bloodline of Jesus. The Old Testament, as we have come to know it, was a largely retrospective work, first compiled between the 6th and 2nd century BC, but relating to the events of hundreds and even thousands of years before. The difference between the Bible and much other history lies, however, in the word scripture, for the Old Testament was not only a work of ancestral record, but became the basis for an evolving, widespread religious doctrine. It was not until the 1850s that documentary evidence of pre-biblical history first came to light, and this was followed 20 years later by some published texts. Not until the late 1920s were the first in-depth translations released into the public domain, translations of scribal records considerably older than the original Old Testament. As the archaeologists progressed their excavations, these ancient clay tablets and engraved cylinders emerged in their tens of thousands from the very Bible lands of Adam, Noah, and Abraham, and they were in large measure contemporary with the Old Testament patriarchal and dynastic eras. More importantly, and perhaps surprisingly to some, many of their accounts were immediately familiar, and it soon became obvious that these were the models for stories written down in retrospect by the Israelites, compilers of Genesis. Throughout the best part of the Common Era, these informative texts had been hidden, unbeknown to anyone, beneath the Mesopotamian and Syrian deserts, and their discovery, like the discovery of the dinosaurs, should have been greeted with enthusiasm by all, but it was not. The historical accounts were familiar, and the characters and places were recognizable as being the Old Testament prototypes, but the literal emphasis were so different from the approved scripture that indoctrinated society and its governing authorities felt immediately threatened.